Hello everyone, this is Abhishek Mahanti and welcome to lecture number 1 of the Mathematical Tools series. So students, as you know that mathematics is the language of physics, and without mathematics we cannot imagine the existence of physics. Because in physics we express different types of physical phenomena in terms of equations, and that's why mathematics becomes very vital for physics. And if you want to excel in physics, you have to be very strong in mathematics. That's why I have started this series where I will teach you some of the basic mathematical operations which will help you to solve the physics numericals easily. So this is the first lecture of this series, and today we will discuss about some basic algebra, and most of the things you have already studied in your high school career. So first of all, we'll start with the quadratic equation, and since all of you have passed class 10 exam recently, so this quadratic equation will be very easy for you because in your mathematics syllabus you had this quadratic equation. So students, tell me what is the meaning of quadratic equation. So remember that quadratic equation means it is an equation of degree 2. So let me write here that it is an equation of degree 2 of degree 2. So the next question is, what is the meaning of degree of an equation? So students, we know that in an equation we have a variable. The maximum power of the variable in an equation is known as the degree of that equation. So in a quadratic equation, the maximum power of the variable is 2, and the general form of a quadratic equation general form of a quadratic equation is ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. All of you are acquainted with this equation, with this form. Ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. What is a? A is the coefficient of x square. A is the coefficient of x square, and b is the coefficient of x, or I can say that coefficient of x to the power 1. And what is c? C is the coefficient of x to the power 0. And this a, b, c, these are constant quantities for a given equation. And since the degree of this quadratic equation is 2, this equation has two solutions or two roots. Remember that the number of solutions of an equation is equal to the degree of that equation. If we have a linear equation means the power of equation is 1. So a linear equation has a single solution. Similarly, if we have a quadratic equation, means equation of degree 2, then we have two solutions. If we have a cubic equation, means the degree 3, then we have three solutions. So this quadratic equation ax square plus bx plus c has two solutions, and the two solutions are alpha and beta. The first solution is alpha and the second solution is beta. Now, what is the formula, or how to get the value of alpha and value of beta? So remember that alpha is equal to minus b plus square root of d divided by 2a, and beta is equal to minus b minus square root of d whole divided by 2a. What is d? D is known as the discriminant of this quadratic equation. Discriminant of the quadratic equation. And this d is equal to b square minus 4ac. So if we look at an equation, we can easily identify what is a, what is b, what is c, and then you can find the discriminant. The discriminant is b square minus 4ac, and after knowing the value of discriminant, we can find the values of alpha and beta. So this alpha and beta are the two roots or the two equations of this two roots or two solutions of the equation x square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now if you add these two roots alpha plus beta, then you will get minus b by a. And if you multiply the two equations alpha into beta, that will be equal to c by a. So you have to remember this relation alpha plus beta is equal to minus b by a, and alpha into beta is equal to c by a. For example, I am giving you an equation 10x square minus 27x plus 5 is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation, and let me find what is a, what is b, and what is c. So a is the coefficient of x square, which is 10. B is coefficient of x, which is minus 27, and c is the coefficient of x to the power 0, which is 5. So in this equation, I have got the values of a, b, and c. A equal to 10, b equal to minus 27, and c equal to 5. Now let me find what is the discriminant or d of this equation. So d is equal to how much? B square minus 4ac. So b is minus 27. So I'll write minus 27 square. Then minus 4 into a. What is a? A is 10, and c is 5. So that is equal to what is the square of minus 27. The square of minus 27 will be 729, minus we have this 4 into 10 will be 40, 40 into 5 will be 200. So 729 minus 200, that is equal to 529. So the discriminant of this equation is found to be 529. Now let us find the values of alpha and beta. So alpha is equal to minus b plus square root of d whole divided by 2a. So in this equation b is minus 27. So minus of minus 27, then plus square root of d means square root of 529 divided by 2a. 2 into a is 10. That is equal to minus minus will be plus, so it will be plus 27 plus square root of 529 will be 23 divided by 2 into 10 will be 20. So 27 plus 23 will be 50. So we'll get 50 by 20, that is equal to 5 by 2. So one of the roots is 5 by 2. Now let us find what is beta. Beta is equal to minus b minus square root of d by 2a, that is equal to minus of minus 27, then minus square root of 529 divided by 2 into 10. So minus minus will be plus, so it will be plus 27 minus square root of 529 will be 23 divided by 20. So 27 minus 23 will be 4. 4 by 20, that is equal to 1 by 5. So we got that the two roots of this equation 10x square minus 27x plus 5 is equal to 0 are 5 by 2 and 1 by 5. So alpha is equal to 5 by 2 and beta is equal to 1 by 5. So I had told you that alpha plus beta will be equal to minus b by a. Let us prove it. So alpha equal to 5 by 2 plus beta is 1 by 5. Now you can take LCM 10. So 10 by 2 is 5. 5 into 5 will be 25 plus 10 by 5 will be 2. 2 into 1 is 2. That equal to 27 by 10. And I can write this as minus of minus 27 by 10. So what is minus 27? Just look at the equation here. Minus 27 is b and 10 is equal to a. So here we have minus 27. So this minus 27 is equal to b, and in the denominator we have 10, this is a, so that is equal to minus of b by a, minus of b divided by a. Is that clear? So we got that alpha plus beta is equal to minus b by a. Similarly, let us find that alpha into beta is equal to c by a. So alpha into beta will be equal to 5 by 2 into 1 by 5, that equal to that will be equal to 5 by 10. So if you look at the equation, then 5 is equal to c and a equal to 10. So 5 by 10 is equal to c by a. So students, this is all about the quadratic equation. And remember one more point, that if d is greater than 0, means the discriminant of a quadratic equation is greater than 0, means if it is positive, then the roots are real and unequal. Roots are real and unequal, means we will get two different solutions or two different roots. But if d is equal to 0, then the roots are real and equal. The roots are real and equal. But if the discriminant is negative, if it is less than 0, then the roots are imaginary. The roots are imaginary. So you have to remember these points about the quadratic equation. So students, we have discussed about what is the meaning of quadratic equation, what is the general form of that equation, how to find the solutions, what is the meaning of discriminant, what is the value of alpha plus beta, what is the value of alpha into beta. So hopefully you have understood all the concepts of this quadratic equation, and now we will go to discuss about the binomial theorem. So students, now we will discuss about this binomial theorem. It is a very important theorem, and in physics in many cases we are going to use this one. So first look at the statement of this binomial theorem, and then I will explain it. So this binomial theorem states that if n is any number, it may be positive, negative or a fraction, and x is any real number such that the magnitude of x is less than 1, that is x lies between -1 to +1, then according to this binomial theorem, 1 plus x whole to the power n is equal to 1 plus nx plus n into n minus 1 by 2 factorial into x square plus n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 divided by 3 factorial into x to the power 3 plus dot dot dot. Means the next term will be n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 into n minus 3 by 4 factorial into x to the power 4, like this. So look at this one. This is known as 2 factorial. This is known as 3 factorial. So you don't know what is the meaning of factorial. So first I will explain what is the meaning of factorial. So you can read this symbol as 2 factorial. 2 factorial. So what is the meaning of the term factorial? Suppose I will write n factorial. I will write n factorial. N may be 5, maybe 10, maybe 100, maybe 6, any number. So n factorial is equal to n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 dot 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 up to 1. For example, if I write 6 factorial, then I will multiply all the numbers starting from 6 up to 1, means all the numbers starting from 6, and then I will gradually go towards 1. So 6 factorial is equal to 6 into the previous number is 5, the previous number is 4, so 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So starting from that number, I will go towards 1 and I will multiply all the numbers, then I will get 6 factorial. So if you multiply all these numbers, you will get 6 into 5 is 30, 30 into 4 is 120, 120 into 3 is 360, 360 into 2 is 720, 720 into 1 is 720. So 6 factorial is equal to 720. Similarly, what is 5 factorial? Start from 5 and then keep on multiplying all the numbers from 5 up to 1. So that will be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, and the answer will be 120. Similarly, what is 10 factorial? So we have to start from 10 and gradually we will go towards 1. So we have to multiply all the terms, all the numbers starting from 10 to 1. So that is equal to 10 into 9 into 8 into 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, and you can find the answer on your own. So I hope that you have understood what is the meaning of factorial. And remember that 0 factorial is equal to 1. This is a very important thing you have to remember. 0 factorial is equal to 1. So I hope that all of you have got some knowledge about factorial. Now just look at this binomial theorem statement. According to this binomial theorem, if we have this type of expression 1 plus x whole to the power n, and if the magnitude of x is less than 1, means the value of x lies between -1 to +1, and this n, it can be a positive, it can be a negative, or it can be a fraction. Then 1 plus x whole to the power n can be written as 1 plus nx plus n into n minus 1 by 2 factorial into x square plus n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 by 3 factorial into x to the power 3 plus dot 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 and so on. But in physics, we will use a part of this binomial theorem, and that comes under a special case. So if the magnitude of x is much less than 1. So if you look at the binomial theorem statement, then here the condition is the magnitude of x is less than 1. For example, if I take x equal to minus 0.7, then the magnitude of x is equal to plus 0.7, and we know that this 0.7 is less than 1. So for this value of x, we can use this formula to expand 1 plus x whole to the power n. But if the magnitude of x is very small as compared to 1, for example, if the value of x is equal to 0.00003, you can see that this value 0.4 zeros and then I have a 3. So this value of x, the magnitude of this x is very small as compared to 1. So in that case, while expanding this term, while expanding 1 plus x whole to the power n, we have to consider only the first two terms, because the higher powers of x, like x to the power 2, x to the power 3, the next term will get x to the power 4. So the higher terms will be very negligible. For example, if I will take x equal to, let us say x equal to 0.01. 0.01 means what? It is 10 to the power minus 2. So remember that if you take a value less than 1, and if you find the square of that number, x square will be 10 to the power minus 4, that is equal to 0.0001. Now tell me, which one is smaller? X is 0.01, x square is 0.0001. Obviously, x square is less than x. Similarly, if I find x to the power 3, it will be 10 to the power minus 6, that is equal to 0.000001. Again, you can say that x to the power 3 is very small as compared to x. So students, remember that if we take a value of x which is very small as compared to 1, then the higher powers like x to the power 2, x to the power 3, x to the power 4, all these higher power terms will be very much negligible. So if you look at this expression here, 1 plus x whole to the power n is equal to 1 plus nx, then we have n into n minus 1 by 2 factorial into x square, then we have this term. So if the magnitude of x is much less than 1, then 1 plus x whole to the power n is approximately equal to 1 plus nx, is approximately equal to 1 plus nx. We can ignore all these terms, only we have to consider the first two terms, because all these terms, they are very negligible, they are very small, so their addition will not change the overall value that much. So this is a special case, and we are going to use this special case in physics while deriving many formulas. So remember that the binomial theorem for this special case, that if the magnitude of x is much smaller than 1, then 1 plus x whole to the power n is approximately equal to 1 plus nx. Similarly, if I write 1 plus x, suppose the power n is negative, suppose it is minus n, then this is approximately equal to 1 minus nx. Similarly, if I have 1 minus x whole to the power n, it will be approximately equal to 1 minus nx. And similarly, if I have 1 minus x whole to the power minus n, then it will be approximately equal to 1 plus nx. And all these values, or all these formulas are applicable only under this condition, if the magnitude of x is much smaller than 1. So simply you have to multiply the power with this x, that's enough. Is that clear? So now I will give you an example how to use this binomial theorem. For example, suppose the question is to find 1001 whole to the power 1 by 3. 1001 whole to the power 1 by 3. So I can write this 1001 like 1000 plus 1 whole to the power 1 by 3. Now if I take 1000 common from this bracket, then what will I get? 1000 whole into 1 plus 1 by 1000 and whole to the power 1 by 3. So 1000 whole to the power 1 by 3 will be 10, because we know that power 1 by 3 means cube root. So the cube root of 1000 will be 10, and then we have 1 plus this 1 by 1000 is 0.001 and the power is 1 by 3. Now just look at this term. We have 1, then plus we have this term 0.001, and we know that 0.001 is very small as compared to 1. So this is 1 plus this 0.001 is your x, and the magnitude of x is much smaller than 1. So and here the power is 1 by 3, means this is the value of n. So the value of this expression is approximately equal to 10 into 1 plus, just multiply this power, the power is 1 by 3, just multiply this power with x, means 1 by 3 into 0.001. So the total answer will be how much? It will be 10 into 1 plus 0.00033. So we can ignore the other terms, the x square terms, the x to the power 3 terms. So we have to consider only the first two terms. So the answer will be 10.003301 approximately. This is the approximate value. So students, just you have to remember these expressions, because we are going to use these formulas many times in physics. So this is the binomial theorem that we are going to use in physics. So next we'll discuss about arithmetic progression or AP, and again all of you have studied about AP in your class 10 mathematics syllabus. So let us discuss about it. What is the meaning of arithmetic progression? So it is a sequence of numbers which are arranged in either increasing order or in decreasing order and having a constant difference between them. So arithmetic progression means it is a series of numbers, it is a sequence of numbers which are arranged either in increasing order or in decreasing order, and there must be a constant difference between any two consecutive terms. For example, if I write a series of numbers like 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, 25, like this, then this series represents an arithmetic progression, because you can see that if you take any two consecutive terms, let me take the first and second term, what is the difference between the two numbers? The difference is 4. Similarly, take these two consecutive numbers 13 and 17, the difference between them is 4. Similarly, take 17, 21, the difference is 4. Take 21 and 25, the difference is 4. So in an AP or in an arithmetic progression, we have a series of numbers and there is a constant difference between any two consecutive terms. So in general, I can write that A is the first term of AP, and so let me write that A is the first term of AP or arithmetic progression, and D is the constant difference. D is the constant difference, or it is also known as the common difference, constant difference or the common difference. Then the series of numbers will be A, then A plus D, then A plus 2D, then A plus 3D, and like this. So what is the formula to find the nth term in an AP? Nth term in an AP is an is equal to a plus n minus 1 into d. For example, suppose I'll say that in an AP, this is the example. Suppose in an AP, the first term a equal to 5 and the common difference d equal to 2. The question is to find the 10th term. To find the 10th term. The first term is 5, a is 5 and the common difference is 2, and we have to find the 10th term. Means here n is equal to 10. So we have to find a10 means the 10th term. So a10 is equal to a plus 10 minus 1 into d, means a plus 9d. What is a? A is 5 plus 9 into what is d? D is 2. So 9 into 2 is 18. 18 plus 5 will be 23. It means the 10th term is 23. So in this way you can find the nth term in an AP. So in an AP we have a number of terms, and if we want to find the sum of all the terms, then we have to use a formula. So the next formula is about the sum of AP. Sum of AP. Suppose in an AP we have n number of terms and we have to find the sum of all the n terms. So that is written as Sn, and the formula is n by 2 whole into 2a plus n minus 1 into d. That is equal to n by 2. 2a can be written as a plus a, then we have n minus 1 into d, that is equal to n by 2. So Sn is equal to n by 2 whole into a plus this a plus n minus 1 into d is nothing but the nth term, so you can write an. So since the AP contains a number of terms, so an is the last term and a is the first term. So we can say that Sn is equal to n by 2 whole into the first term plus the nth term or the last term. So in this way you can find the sum of a series of AP. Now we are going to discuss about GP, means geometric progression. So let us discuss about this geometric progression or GP. So it is a sequence of numbers in which every number or every term is obtained by multiplying the previous term by a constant quantity, and this constant quantity is known as the common ratio. For example, suppose I want to write a series of numbers in geometric progression and I have to choose the first number. Let us say the first number is 2 and I'll choose the common ratio to be 4. Let us say the common ratio is 4. So the first term is 2. To get the second term, I have to multiply 4 with the first term. So 2 into 4 is 8. So the second term will be 8. Now to write the third term, I have to again multiply 4 with 8 because I have taken the common ratio equal to 4. So to get a given term, you have to multiply the previous term with the common ratio. So I have taken the first term as 2 and common ratio as 4. So 2 into 4 equal to 8, that is the second term, and 8 into 4 is 32, that is the third term. 32 into 4 is 128, that is the fourth term, and 128 into 4 will be 512, that will be the fifth term. So in this way you can write a number of a series of numbers which are in GP or geometric progression. So the difference between AP and GP is, in AP to obtain a given term we have to add the common difference with the previous term, but in case of GP, to obtain a given term we have to multiply the common ratio with the previous term. So in general, if I say that A is the first term, A is the first term of GP or geometric progression, and R is the common ratio. R is the common ratio. Then what will be the series of GP? The first term is A, the second term will be A into the common ratio, that is A into R. The third term is A into R square, because to get the third term I have to multiply R with the second term. So AR into R will be AR square. Similarly, the fourth term will be A into R to the power 3. The fifth term will be A into R to the power 4, and similarly the nth term will be A into R to the power n minus 1. So remember that in GP the nth term is given by an is equal to A into R to the power n minus 1. And students, remember that this common ratio can be a whole number or it can be a fraction. Means it can be greater than 1, it can be less than 1. And similarly, the way we have calculated the sum of AP, in this case also we have to know the formula to calculate the sum of n terms of GP. So the next formula is about sum of n terms of GP. And here we have two cases or two conditions possible. The first condition is the common ratio R, it may be less than 1, or the common ratio R may be greater than 1. In this example I have taken 4 as the common ratio. So here 4 is greater than 1, means the common ratio is greater than 1. But if I take the common ratio as 1 by 2 or 1 by 3, means which is less than 1, then the formula of sum will be different. And if R is greater than 1, then again the formula of the sum will be different. So look at the first case. If R means the common ratio is less than 1, then in this case what will be the formula for Sn? In this case Sn is equal to A into 1 minus R to the power n divided by 1 minus R. Remember this formula. If R is less than 1, means if the common ratio is less than 1, then the sum of n terms of the GP is given by this one, A into 1 minus R to the power n divided by 1 minus R. What is n? N is the number of terms in the GP. But if the common ratio R is greater than 1, then in that case what is Sn? Sn is equal to A into R to the power n minus 1 divided by R minus 1. So you have to remember these two formulas. So these two formulas are applicable when we have finite number of terms in the GP. But if the GP has infinite number of terms, for example, suppose look at this GP. Suppose I have the first term as 2 and the common ratio as 4, and suppose the GP contains only 5 terms. So it will end at 512. The first term is 2 and the fifth term is 512, and this is the last term, means the GP contains only the 5 terms, or it may contains 10 terms, 15 terms, a finite number of terms. But if a GP contains infinite number of terms, means there is no boundary or there is no last term, then in that case how to find the sum? If, or I can write that in case of infinite series, in case of infinite series GP, what is Sn? Sn is equal to A by 1 minus R if R is less than 1, and Sn will be equal to A by R minus 1 if R is greater than 1. So remember these 4 formulas to find the sum of a GP series. The first 2 formulas are applicable when we have a finite series of GP, and the last 2 formulas are applicable when we have infinite series of GP. So students, that's all for today's lecture. So in this lecture we discuss about 4 topics. The first one is quadratic equation, how to find the roots of the quadratic equation. Then we discuss about the binomial theorem, the special case, and then we discuss about arithmetic progression and geometric progression. In the next class, we will discuss about trigonometry and some of the basic formulas that we are going to use in physics. So till then, have a nice day and bye bye.